All right, so I'm explaining 32 from the homework. So the first thing that we're taking a look at is that we're finding tangent of 2 pi. So I go to my formula sheet and I jot down the formula. And then I say, okay, in order to do this formula, I need tangent of pi. So how do I figure out what tangent of pi is? I have two choices. Choice number one, I could do sine theta over cosine theta. That's one formula to get tangent of pi. The other formula I have that I could use to get tangent is, why do I keep saying pi? Tangent of theta. To find tangent, sorry about that. To find tangent of theta, I could either use sine theta over cosine theta, or I could use the Pythagorean identity, tangent squared theta plus 1 equals secant squared theta. So let me look at my given information over here and see which one I might want to do. So I have sine of theta, right? So I know that I could do 1/3 here, but I still need cosine theta on the bottom. If I try to do this formula, tangent squared theta plus 1 equals secant squared theta, I would need to know what cosine theta is first in order to use that formula. So either way, with either of these formulas, I need to figure out what cosine of theta is. So I'm going to choose to use sine over cosine instead of the Pythagorean identity, but you could do this Pythagorean identity. So in order to use this formula, I need to figure out what cosine theta is. So how do I figure out what cosine theta is? I'm going to use the cosine squared formula from the Pythagorean identity. So I rearrange the first Pythagorean identity to get this. So now I'm doing 1 minus, I know that sine is 1/3 because that was my given information in the problem, squared. And now I'm going to simplify this. So 1 minus 1/9. This becomes 8/9, and that's cosine squared theta. I'm then going to take the square root of both sides. So cosine theta is equal to plus or minus the square root of 8/3. Your choice here, if you want to simplify to 2√2/3 or to use square root of 8/3. In the end, you'll simplify and have to do it eventually. So it's just your personal preference which one you want to use. Now we do have this plus or minus sign. We're not going to use both plus and minus. You have to pick one. And the way you pick one is we're talking about theta. And right now we know that theta is between 0 and pi/2, which is in degrees between 0 and 90. So this is quadrant 1. So in quadrant 1, hold on. In quadrant 1, everything is positive. So our cosine of theta then is positive 8√8/3, right? Or you could do 2√2/3, your choice, right? I did 2√2/3, very much so your preference. So that goes in the denominator over here for tangent. Okay, so I want to be able to put this tangent value into that formula up there, but I'm going to simplify it first. So keep, change, flip. So keep the 1/3, change, and then flip. And this is where maybe it would have been an advantage to keep it as square root of 8 if you're not comfortable with the 2√2. So try it both ways, see what you like. These 3's then cancel. So I have 1/2√2. I'm then going to rationalize this because you can't leave a radical in the denominator. So I'm going to multiply by √2/√2 to rationalize it. Again, if you had a √8 there, you'd be multiplying by √8/√8. You'll get the same simplified answer eventually. So that becomes √2 over, this would become 2 times √4, which is 2 times 2. So that's 4. So this is the final answer for what tangent of theta is. Okay? So now, I'm going to go on to the next screen, so pause if you need something. So now I go back to that tangent of 2 theta formula. And I'm going to substitute in that root 2 over 4 for these highlighted spaces here. So that becomes 2 times root 2 over 4 over 1 minus root 2 over 4 squared. So this becomes, in the numerator, right, the 2 and the 4 simplify. The outside 2 and the denominator 4, they simplify. So that becomes root 2 over 2 over 1 minus, I'm going to square this term. That becomes 2, because root 2 squared is 2, over 4 squared is 16. This then becomes root 2 over 2 over 1 minus 2/16 becomes 7/8. I'm then going to do a keep, change, flip. So keep the root 2 over 2 the same. Change that big division bar to multiplication. Flip the 7/8. I would then, if I'm doing this by hand, simplify. So this is like a 1 and a 4. So when you multiply this, you get 4 root 2 over 7, which is the final answer. So let me know if you still have questions in your work. If you can't find where you made a mistake, maybe you kept the root 8 instead of the 2 root 2 and you tried to do it and got a different answer. Let me know, highlight that, make a private comment when you attach it, because then I can take a look at your work and let you know. All right, bye.